All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, you all know that you're here tonight to learn more about the Master of Professional Studies in Applied Industrial Organizational Psychology program. Dr. Stagel and I are excited to host you all this evening, share more information about the field and our specific program, and hopefully address any questions that you all have. Typically, a lot of other programs like to do webinar style, but we really like to be able to see you all and hear from you all and interact with you all. So that's why you see it in a Zoom room. So please, please, please feel free to jot your questions down in the chat, and we'll make sure we also have time at the end to be able to take your questions verbally. So again, we want this to be interactive. We want to hear from you all and make sure that we can answer all the questions you all have. All right.
Hey, my name is Justin, and in the chat, I can only send a message to the hosts. Is that the way you have the chat set up?
We would love for you to be able to send it out to everyone. Stephanie, can we get that chat setting fixed? Oh, can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. And that's Justin?
Yes, Justin
Okay.
Scott.
Same for me.
Same for me as
Yeah,
well.
I think it's for
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just a moment. Let's see. Are you able to type to everyone now?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, we can see when Kevin sends us messages to everyone, but we can't send to him unless it's direct.
Okay. It's saying here I can allow participants to unmute themselves. I did not set this up, the settings on it, but if anyone has any suggestions.
Yeah, I see that people are responding to me now directly, so maybe you made me the host, perhaps?
I made you a co-host.
Okay.
Yeah, mine went to just George Mason online admissions.
Okay.
You can do
So
a quick intro if you want, verbally.
All right. Well,
You go first, ma'am.
no, I was gonna say, I think one of the reasons why that may have happened is because typically when we set this up, it's webinar style, and webinar style has limitations on how the chat features and Q&A operate. But again, we had sort of asked, no, we want it Zoom style, so we switched that up, and that might be the limitation. Why don't we do this? If you do have a question, go ahead and message that to Dr. Stagel, and that way he can be, receiving some of those questions and inquiries, and whether he types in response back or says it out loud, he'll be able to respond to that. So are you all at least able to send a message to him?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So I'll keep things going and rolling if that's okay. And any questions, thoughts, or comments, he'll be keeping an eye on the chat box. That's sort of our solution for tonight. Does that sound good? All right, so we have a lot to cover this evening. We're hoping not to take more of an hour of your time. You're going to be meeting both Dr. Stagel and I, learning more about Mason's program, the IO program, background of the MPS program. We do want you all to meet some of our students and alums, so we have invited them to join us this evening. So they'll be hopping in around 7:30. We want to give as much time as we can to them because yes, it's great to hear from us, but it's also amazing to hear from people who've actually been through the program. And so we want to allow enough time for that. And we'll wrap up with some admissions requirements from one of our reps and Q&A. And again, if you have questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat, but we want to make sure we get through everything this evening. All right. So a little bit about us. My name is Dr. Afra Ahmed. I am the director of the program and a very long time patriot. I completed my undergrad, master's, and doctoral studies here at George Mason University. I studied diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. So that's sort of where my research interests lie. And I'm excited to be able to have the opportunity to talk to you all tonight and interact with you and be leading this program. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Stagel.
Quickly, I'm the assistant director, assistant professor of the program. I would be your instructor during the first course. I'm a UCF alum. I put all that in the chat. You know this. I studied under the great Eduardo Salas, Dr. Eduardo Salas, one of our fantastic IO psychologists. My current mentor is Dr. Zuccaro. You're going to learn all about these fantastic professors and all their great theories when you attend our program. Welcome, and I look forward to meeting each of you.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those of you that are not from George Mason University, unlike Angela, who has the George Mason background, we've been around since 1956 as the Northern Virginia branch of UVA. And then we sort of branched off in 1972. We are the largest public institution in Virginia. And, we hold, high classifications in terms of the R1 Doctoral Research University. We have multiple campuses. So we do have, for those of you familiar with Northern Virginia, we have one that's our main campus in Fairfax. We have one in Arlington, one in Prince William. We actually have one in South Korea, and then a number of growing online programs that sort of started prior to the pandemic and some after the pandemic. Now, before we get diving straight into, exactly what we do and who we are, we thought we would take a few minutes and share a little bit about IO. So, Kevin, do you want to tell them a little bit about SIOP before we play the video?
Sure. The Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology, or SIOP, is our professional association. I have been a member, I think, since '98, and seen some market changes and expansions of SIOP and its resources. And this is just one of the terrific initiatives it has ongoing. It has a SIOP YouTube channel now, and you can visit that channel and preview a day in the, realistic job preview of what it is to be an IO. And there are many different perspectives on that. That channel is growing, it's nascent, and it's expanding all the time. So enjoy that multimedia when you get an opportunity. Please visit SIOP.org so that there are many resources for students there about whether this is an optimal career path for you, although it can take many different paths, and as well as information to inform your choices about the research that we perform, the topics we study in the workplace, how we help businesses. So it's a terrific resource for you as applicants to this program.
And again, we're going to try to make sure you get these slides and a copy of this, but I'm going to just see if I can play a couple minutes of it, and then we'll see if we need to cut it short or not, because I am looking at the time and want to make sure we get to your questions. But just so you get a little bit of feel of what this SIOP channel is, what the field is, and what it has to offer.
We hear comments in the news or from coworkers or friends. The workplace is changing. Businesses have to work smarter to compete in the global economy. Technology is altering the way and pace at which we work. We need to find and prepare employees for the jobs of tomorrow. To meet these challenges, organizations are increasingly relying on experts in workplace science. These professionals, known as industrial organizational psychologists, or IO psychologists, work to improve organizations' productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness, while striving to make the workplace better for both employers and employees.
All right, I'm going to pause it there, but we're going to make sure that you get a copy of the slides and get to check it out a little bit. But there is one of my favorite features, as Dr. Stagel mentioned, is sort of seeing what does a day life in a biopsychologist look like? Because that's a question that a lot of applicants usually have, like, what will I be doing with this degree? What does my day-to-day look like? What kind of jobs can I obtain? And so, again, some of that video information, interviews, and things like that are featured on the SIOP webpage. Dr. Stagel, did you have something?
Yeah, I want to follow up on this point real quick, and then two questions popped up real quick. Just so you know, I just reviewed some of the where our students work and what they do. Some of them are students, some of them are alums, but we have the gamut, the spectrum of opportunities here that our students are engaged in at major consultancies like Deloitte and Booz Allen Hamilton, at major government agencies like the Central Intelligence Agency and the NSF, major private sector entities, organizations such as Clear Channel or Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Microsoft, State Farm, Nestle. Some of their jobs that you might think about in the future, or you might be performing already, or include business development manager or change management consultant, chief of staff, chief operating officer, human capital strategy consultant, staff support analyst, talent acquisition specialist, research assistant, and even PhD student. So they're really, I can't share the whole list with you because we gotta keep moving. But there are dozens of major entities that you would know, from AstraZeneca to Microsoft, that I could name, where our students work. That we have this vast network of students that you can connect with, and alums that you can connect with. That's one of our major, I believe, competitive advantages. The two questions were, where's the PhD program? That's in Fairfax, Virginia. And then the second is, other MPS programs have noted they are not focused on research. No, not like we are. We believe in a very balanced scientist practitioner approach. We are an R1 university. We are the PhD program is ranked in the top 5 globally. They have boast 6 SciOp 5 on their staff. The extended staff includes 6. 4 in extended staff includes 6 in the B school and in our program. That's very rare. There are about 280 of these people. 6 are here at Mason in your program. We have a balanced perspective. We believe that's your competitive advantage, is that you're going to be able to drive smarter work places through quantitative research, and make better and more informed decisions. So data-driven decision making, and that's what we're about here, is a balance between science and practitioner.
So just to add to that, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and we remind students that you notice the name Applied Industrial Organizational Psychology. We do, again, IO is founded in the scientist practitioner model. So we are, using the research and science to make, again, evidence-based decisions in the organizations. Now, what people do with that, again, as Dr. Stable mentioned, our students have had a variety of positions. Some of them want to be data analysts and go into that. Others are like, guess what? I don't like quant as much, but I'd like to do something else. And I'm more, enjoy more of the, organizational change management, some leadership development sort of roles. So the great thing is that depending on what you would like to specialize in, you do have all of that offering here at Mason. You will get all that training, and you will be able to successfully apply for a job in any of those spaces. And again, learning is a continuous process, and we are looking into opportunities for you to hone even more of those skills if you're interested in a particular area. So in the future, downstream, we're interested in offering things like certificates, and those are, again, opportunities for you to have this sort of lifelong continuous learning process in this field. So that's something to keep in mind.
Just to thank you, ma'am. The diversity of outcomes here include Jimmy Johnson, the only head coach to win national championships in college and pro football, is an IO psychologist. So you can apply IO to any endeavor, to any occupation, to any interest that you have. And so we don't want to constrain that. We want to encourage your innovation and your application.
Okay. All right. So to tell you a little bit about Mason's IO program, as Dr. Stagel mentioned, our IO program was founded in 1972 as well. We have had faculty members prominent in the academic side, practice side, and several SciOp presidents and fellows and so forth. Now, this IO program has been around since 1972, and that's the PhD and MA on-ground program. So someone asked about the doctoral program that is located at the Fairfax campus, and that is the program that I went through. Now, the MPS program, we began in 2019, and that was prior to the pandemic. The idea when we began was sort of, we get so many applications for our doctoral and master's program, and how do we allow a pathway for people all over the country and world who are interested in studying IO and getting IO knowledge and training? How do we provide an opportunity for that? And that's where our idea came from, to start this fully online program. So we began in 2019, as we mentioned, focused on the scientist practitioner model. You have coursework that spans over a year and a half. You take one class at a time. So this is designed so that you can balance your work-life demands. So if you're working full-time, you're not going into 2 to 3 classes at a time. You're focusing on one class at a time that is 8 weeks long, and then you dive into the next class. Every single class, it has applied projects and assessment. You don't have something like a cumulative midterm or a cumulative final exam. You are learning material every week, and you're applying it that very week, and you're also applying it and building it into a project that might be larger. So for example, in the selection class that I've developed, you're doing a job analysis, and it's broken into 4 weeks, and you complete the full job analysis project. In the research methods practicum course, you have 16 weeks to conduct a research study in addressing a workplace problem. So, these are sort of the steps that you have in how you're demonstrating your competency and that knowledge gaining throughout the program. So what makes our program unique? I think Dr. Sigel mentioned some of our renowned faculty of experts and innovators. So someone asked about that PhD program. All of the tenure track PhD faculty either develop some of the courses or teach in the courses. So all of them are rotating and teaching. So in addition to their PhD, master's, and undergrad teaching, they also teach in the MPS program. And so that is something that's unique and different, is that we do have this collaborative effort with the on-ground programs, with teaching and with additional sort of enrichment activities like our learning curricula and so forth. So that's something to keep in mind. We are competitively priced for our master's degree program. We've done the analysis and benchmarks to be able to say that. We are flexible to accommodate the working students. So while we, are asynchronous, we do have synchronous components to support you. And, every week you'll have, asynchronous work to do, the deliverables to complete, but there are synchronous components where we hope that you join office hours and you connect with faculty members. And we strongly encourage that. Honestly, our best students are the ones who take advantage of that opportunity to learn from faculty and learn from their peers. And not only do they attend those office hours, but they set up study groups with their peers and they get to know them and they network and connect and so forth. So, and they end up oftentimes becoming lifelong friends. At graduation, you see each other and they're acting like they've known each other their entire lives. So you do have that opportunity. And at Mason, in addition to being financially competitive, you do have access to our career services. And we strongly encourage you to reach out to our industry experts. And a lot of times students are asking, can I have someone look at my resume? Can I have someone help me apply for jobs? And not only do career services do that, but Dr. Stable and I take out time from our busy schedules, and we're happy to meet with students and support them as they talk about where they want to go on their careers and how they want to apply for jobs and sort of setting them up for that success. Anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Stable, to that before we dive into coursework?
I'm sorry, I read Zach's question about the PhD program. Zach, there's a whole website set up for the PhD program. You're going to want to review the requirements. They're much different than our own requirements, and it is a more protracted process. Those applications are due, I believe, in like 5 weeks.
December 15th, yep.
Yep, so there's copious work to be done in the interim if that's your plan.
All right, thank you. So a little bit about our curriculum. So just so that you know, we have a required set of courses. So everyone coming into the program is taking our Introduction to the Science and Practice of Industrial and Organizational Psychology course. We didn't always have that course, but what we learned after a year in the program was that we have students coming from very diverse backgrounds. Not everybody in this room has a psychology background. Not everyone in this room has a business background. And with students coming in with the variety of backgrounds, we really needed to sort of level the playing field and get everyone sort of on the same page when it comes to, IO jargon and information, how to read and write and think as an IO psychologist. So that's where that course comes in. So if you've had no IO background experience, that's okay. That course is, going to get you sort of caught up and ready for all of your content courses and elective courses. Then students dive into the Foundations of Organizational Psychology class. Then they have their Applied Data Analysis course 1, and then we go back to a content class, Industrial Psychology, and then Data Analysis 2. So you might wonder, why don't we have the data analysis courses back to back? Again, that was deliberately done to break up some of the content and analysis so that you can see, as you're learning some more about the analytics, how do you actually apply it to the content you're learning, right? And be able to build upon that. And so that's done, again, deliberately. So then we have students taking the Employee Selection course, and then they dive into the research methods and practicum courses. Now, in these courses, I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide, but you have an opportunity to conduct your own sort of workplace research studies. And then finally, your last 2 courses are going to be 2 of these electives. You have a choice between leadership, motivation, well-being, teamwork, organizational change and development, performance management, and training. And we, again, when we sort of offer these different courses, we do have an elective survey process where we ask you all what are your top preferences, rank order them. And we do look at those elective preferences by cohort, and we make sure that the top 3 are being offered. So that if maybe your choice number 4 is not, but you do have choice number 1, we sort of play around with that, look at that, and we have the staffing needs meet that. So that's sort of how we offer your electives. And there are some students that are interested in coming back and taking additional electives, and we're looking into pathways and avenues for them to do that.
couple questions. One's coming from Josephine. Josephine, you got your hand up if you want to ask.
Yeah, I have a few questions. So we take all of the required courses, right? Plus 2 electives for the master's program?
Correct, for 10 total courses or 30 credits.
Wonderful. Okay, and then how many classes do you recommend each semester?
2 classes, 1 at a time, so 8 weeks. And our semesters we have a fall, spring, and summer offering. So typically students coming in a cohort, they will take courses year round, and there are breaks built in between as well. But they are taking courses. For example, if you came in the fall, you took your first fall session 1 course, that intro class, and then you dived into your Foundations of Organ Psych class for the next 8 weeks, and that's your 16 weeks. So other students on ground might be taking 2 to 3 classes at the same time for 15 weeks. Our students are taking them 1 at a time, one after the other. And then students will have a couple of weeks off for winter break, then come back and take their 3rd class. Does that make sense?
Okay, so each season you take 1 class.
Yes,
At a given time, you take 1 class, but each
Okay.
term you will take 2. So 2 in the spring, 2 in the summer, 2 in the fall.
Oh, I see. Wait, sorry. I have another question. Let me just write that down real quick.
Well, let me just follow up on that. The reason being is we want you to be working full-time or at least part-time and transferring the lessons learned from the coursework so that you're reinforcing that. So our students generally aren't full-time students. They're full-time employees who are in the
Yes.
university part-time.
Yeah. And then I had another question. So do you recommend taking it in the order that you put it in? So like Psych 598 and then Psych 641, etc.
So it's actually just like when I staff and create the schedule, it is created like that. Like we don't have Psych 641 offered in fall session 1. It is only offered in, fall session 2, and it'll be offered in spring session 2 and summer session 2. So you literally, in that sense, don't have a choice. And then of course, we don't want you to jump into applied data analytics 2, before taking 1. And we have it built so that they're sequential for a reason. So for example, in that employee selection class, you will not be able to complete the validation project on the, validating a selection system without having data analysis 2 and learning how to run regression analyses. So yes, those core courses will happen in order, and then the electives, they can happen in any order or, whatever's being offered in that term.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Kevin, anything in the chat? Or
I
do we
don't know if you can see, but the whole room's got their hand up. Justin, go next.
Okay.
Hey, so I have a question about how this curriculum sets us up for success in the real world versus, or the workplace world versus the master's program. So myself, I'm an HR specialist for the government, and I have an interest in psychometrics and building out employee selection methodologies. And I know for the MA program, you have like psychometrics and linear modeling. That's not specifically those aren't classes in the MPS program. Do we still learn the same fundamental things so that way when I'm working on projects at my job, I can go talk to a social scientist and speak with confidence about whatever I'm talking about?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Want me to go? Yes, absolutely. So I started my career in assessment at Assessment Boutiques in '96, working for an IO firm, and we're getting a lot of people filtering in still, by the way, which is great. I built the assessment tools for the staff, the Magic and Wonder. We built account executive predictive models for Oppenheimer, applying classical psychometric theory. You're going to move well beyond that in this program. So although there aren't dedicated courses today in those areas, there are all that content's embedded. You're going to learn the general linear model, generalized linear model. These are families of statistical techniques. You've heard of specific techniques like multiple regression or something. These are families. You're going to learn all those techniques in there, all the ANOVA family framework. So yes, you will be able to, you're going to learn linear mixed modeling during ADA2. So you'll learn the most sophisticated techniques. And more importantly, you'll learn to be nimble in applying an efficient technique to answer the question in an actionable, practical way locally.
Got you. All right, I appreciate it.
We'll take one more question from Loida, and then we'll move on.
Hi, yes. I don't know if you will touch on this later, but I just wanted to know what financial aid is offered, if any. I know that with graduate programs it's a little bit different, but are there any scholarships or anything like that that GMU offers?
So I can answer that quickly. So most of our students are working full time and they do self-fund or have their organizations pay for it. And so we have, like, I know multiple times I've had to sort of write letters to the organization saying the student is good in standing and so forth. And we do have some limited scholarship opportunities that are being explored. And then there are other opportunities, like, for example, internal opportunities such as the high impact grant. That's actually, there was a deadline today for that, but the practicum students, if they have a good research project idea, they can submit that internal applications, competitive university-wide. I think to date, we've had 1 to 2 students who've received that. They have $4,000 that go towards their tuition for that. So, limited, however, there are some opportunities there in that space.
And we're going to work with you to find employment. And that's going to carry you even further, hopefully, at an employer that has tuition reimbursement.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks so much. I mentioned this and alluded to this briefly, but I'm not going to spend too much time. So this is your 16-week research project roadmap. When you join the program, you're going to get to know your peers really well, and you want to become good friends with them because you will be working in small research teams of 3, and you will be identifying a workplace problem that you or one of your peers may be having and turn that into a research question, conduct a literature review, identify, the methodology, put together a questionnaire. I know there was some interest in psychometrics. While we don't get to spend an exhaustive time talking about all the psychometric properties, you do learn some functions of good items and putting together questionnaires. You get some application, setting them up in Qualtrics, collecting data, analyzing the data, running descriptive analyses and running the actual analyses for your study, and then turning that into a full research paper, white paper, and applied presentation. So that is sort of one of the capstone experience of the program that students often look forward to and say is one of their most memorable times in the program that they complete as their 7th and 8th course before they wrap up with their elective courses as their 9th and 10th course. So some career outcomes. We talked a little bit about it, but here's some stats on what Department of Bureau of Labor Statistics says and sort of some areas that our folks go into. Something I want to point out is our IO newsletter. I am the faculty editor of our Industrial Organizational Psychology newsletter. It's a near and dear thing to my heart because this is how we tell everyone else about all the awesome things happening at Mason. So if you're interested in saying, who is actually getting jobs? Are people actually getting jobs? I encourage you to check out our newsletter. Not only will you learn more about the sort of culture and climate of our program, because you'll get to hear from leadership, you get to hear from students as they share experiences, podcasts, different articles. You get to also check out any publications that are published by students and faculty and alum from Mason, presentations for the spring edition, like especially we highlight the SIOP presentations, but that a good news corner, really, we encourage our alumni and students to reach back out to us and let us know where they're getting jobs. So it's very, very important if you want to learn again, where do our students go? That's where I would direct you to, is to check out the newsletter. Some additional professional development opportunities. A lot of times, we've talked about the coursework in the program and the support that you're going to have with the coursework. Again, the coursework takes care of, building knowledge and competencies in the field, and you have the opportunity to engage with faculty and your peers through the coursework. In addition, we have monthly calls. That's an opportunity for you to engage with program leadership. So Dr. Stagel and I take turns leading that monthly call. We invite all cohorts and invited guests. So not only do you have the opportunity to get to know your own cohort, you get to know students who are maybe a semester ahead of you or students that are coming in after you, but that is a great opportunity and time for you to connect with each other. In addition, we have our learning series. We weekly feature prominent guest speakers, actually worldwide speakers that we invite. Sometimes it's held in person and we have a hybrid option, but there's always an option to join virtually throughout the academic year. And again, this is open to our doctoral students, our master's students, and our MPS students. Prior to the pandemic, our learning series was only in person, but after the pandemic, the doctoral and master's students went to Zoom, and we were able to open it and extend the invitation to the MPS students. And we have found sort of keeping this hybrid Zoom option as really advantageous because of all the speakers that get to come in and speak to you all. So you all have an opportunity to join that. As I mentioned earlier, you have opportunity to connect with the University Career Services to get support in those ways. We also support your professional development through external opportunities. So we are constantly sharing things to our listservs, like about jobs, internships, opportunities, consulting competitions. So you'll often hear from not just Dr. Stagel and myself, but other IO faculty, because we often get emails one-on-one, you know, where the organizations reaching out, can you please share this to your listservs? We want to hire Mason graduates, and we, you know, in return are sharing that with you all. So again, an opportunity to connect and network with folks in the industry in those ways. All right, so here's this one student testimonial, and I'll sort of pause there before we turn it over to our guest speakers that I've seen him join the room. Kevin, do we have some questions?
I am answering them feverishly in the book. Let me make sure all the. So our Josephine, you're asking about the fall 24 start. Where's Josephine?
Josephine?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, about 10 August 24 is the final application date. Does that sound right off?
No, you're putting that in the middle of the fall term. So August of next year. So we, like, the next fall, you know, begins next August. So typically you can think of it as 2 weeks prior to our beginning time.
So that's when
10th
does the
August?
application open and when does it due though?
You are welcome to apply now. I don't know, Stephanie, can they have it in the portal until then and we just have a decision outstanding and waiting for them? I mean, you have to have
Correct.
it complete, but could they apply?
I believe that the start date is dropped in the online application right now. I have been letting people know that we have the January and May starts ahead of it, so it may take a little longer to get the decision, but I do believe it's in the application system.
Okay.
So even though I haven't graduated, I could still apply for it?
No, well, you can start the application, but one of the steps are to, you know, review your final, you know, undergrad transcript. So if you still have grades coming in all the way through next May, it would probably be more advantageous to wait, because some of the things we're looking for is some of those prerequisite classes. Have you taken any research methods? Have you taken any stats? What do your grades look like? What does your cumulative undergrad GPA look like? What do the last 60 hours look like? So a lot of those parts of your application will be incomplete until that's done.
Okay, so as soon as I graduate, I should be submitting my application.
Yep.
Okay, and then what is without financial aid, because I'm assuming there's no financial aid, what is the average cost for it if you're not living on campus?
25,000 is about average, but I can get back to you with the exact number because I did the math. But
So do you pay per term or do you pay per year?
Per term. So you'll have a cost due for this fall, and then then student council will reach out to you for the spring, and then the financial aid office does work with you to set up either payment plans or financial options with loans and things like that. If that is something you need to
And
take.
if you would like to put these admissions questions, anyone that has an admissions question, if you put your email in, actually, I should have your email anyway, we can follow up and we can send you links to all the payment plans, the breakdown of tuition by semester and everything, just so that the instructors can answer, you know, the nitty-gritty questions. We're happy to help in admissions.
Okay, so you said it was 25,000 per term?
No. It's $815 per credit, so just over 25,000. But we'll email you the current tuition, just over 25 for the whole program.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else pressing that we need to answer before we turn it to our student speakers? All right, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Shelby. Shelby, are you on here? Sorry, I have to scroll over.
I am.
Hi, Shelby. It's good to see you.
You too.
Can you do your quick introductions and then we'll go to the panel's questions, but I want to introduce you all one by one.
Sure. So my name is Shelby Rudolph. I work at Weight Watchers as a talent development lead. I've been with the company almost 7 years now. I was part of the MPS program cohort 7, so graduated almost a year ago now. And throughout my time at Weight Watchers have been really focused on the talent space and right now focused on leader development. So excited to be here with you all.
So much, Shelby. Anthony.
Hi, everyone. My name's Anthony. I graduated from Mason as part of cohort 5. So that was last May of 2022. Throughout my time in this program, I worked for Lidl US in multiple capacities, mostly in HR department. I most recently served as a training and development specialist, where I was applying a lot of what I learned into analytical aspects of IO and tailoring solutions to other HR needs. So excited to be here tonight.
Thanks so much. Good to see you. Anna.
Hello, all. I'm Anna Lowitz. I am a personnel research psychologist at the U.S. Secret Service. I participate in a lot of projects such as training, selection, any kind of workplace analytics. I'm happy to answer questions later, but yes, that's me. Part of the MPS cohort 6. I forgot to mention that one.
Yeah, thank you. Erin.
Hi, I'm Erin Ramirez. I work at Amentum as the Senior Manager for Organizational Change Readiness. I graduated about a year ago with Shelby, and the company that I work for has a lot of technology projects and a variety of projects going on. I help with organizational change management specifically.
All right. Thank you all so much for being here this evening. And again, we just sent out a message on the alumni listserv and we were overwhelmed by a number of responses. And they were the first 4, and everyone else we said we'll ask you again in the spring. But again, thank you all so much for responding promptly and being here with us tonight. So we have a couple of questions that we have set for you all, and we'd love for whoever would like to jump in and answer them. And then we do want to leave a few minutes for questions from the applicants in the room. So how has your degree in the MPS IO program helped you advance your career or obtain a job opportunity?
I can start with that one. So I actually confused Dr. Stagel throughout some of my discussion posts because it seemed as though every single semester or every term I had a different job. I came from overseas, from being stationed overseas as a, kind of like a spouse. So came back, and it was interesting to see how everything I learned in the term I applied at work with every job I had. And I feel like the program really had me think critically about the organization that I was working at and just kind of look at it from a different perspective rather than just the employee. And I feel like that has really honed in on what I apply daily at Secret Service, because it really did force me to look at my work at a different perspective, and that's important for this field.
That's great. Thanks, Anna.
I can resonate with that too. I think one of the goals I had as I was coming into the program is I felt like, I was lucky I was already in the field before I started this program, but I felt like I was just constantly learning from managers and peers, and I wasn't like the expert in the room. And this degree really gave me the expertise to like come to the organization with solutions instead of just listening to others. And then shortly after wrapping up the program, I was promoted. So I think the organization really saw the value that I was bringing with this degree. And just like Anna was saying, I was constantly able to apply what I was learning real time in the role.
Yeah, I agree, Shelby. I think a lot of the value of the degree was my own confidence in being an expert and recognizing that I bring expertise to my work. And then also the external validation from others that I bring expertise to the role. I too had the change in roles shortly after I graduated. So I did change organizations, but received a promotion. And I know someone was asking about cost. I'm very analytical, so I looked through a lot of programs too, and just found a lot of value from this, and also had a very large income increase after graduating, I think partially due to this degree.
Yeah, definitely. To piggyback. Oh,
sorry, Anthony. I was making a snide comment. Go ahead, please, sir.
No. So what'd you say, Dr. Stigl?
I'm waiting for my cut, Aaron. And also, while I've got the open mic, all 4 of these individuals have come to the initial course in the last several months and presented on behalf of, Mason and their organizations, their employers. These are the kind of students you're going to get to network, alums you're going to get to network with on a weekly basis when you're in the program.
Absolutely. And I think just to piggyback on everyone's positions on how everything went out and how everything turned out, I could say from my perspective, I suppose I was someone who, for anyone who has any anxieties about going into any of this or what degree or what career they want to choose, I could say I was someone who didn't really necessarily know what he wanted to do with his career. He knows I knew I wanted to be involved with psychology. That was my thing. Organizational behavior I found out about, and learning to build psychology and move it, apply psychological principles to the workplace. But what I found that I liked, what helped advance my own career by getting the education from Mason, was just incredible. I was readily, just like how everyone was saying, I was readily applying new expertise and even advancing thought into organizational change or into interjecting into different policies. So I was affecting change very gradually just by gaining the gradual education I was receiving. And so I came out with it with a passion for wanting to be like a practitioner, someone working and applying techniques. So it helped me to find my focus, find my center, and gain the technical as well as the competency expertise, both in psychology and technology, which is very prominent in these times. And learning how you connect technology with psychology and how people interact with certain things only adds more to your pedestal to gain what you want to accomplish in the world. So, wanting to make better the lives and performances of people in the workplace, and upon entering the program, I just quickly found out this was the right place for me to be in.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, for question number 2, I'd love for you all to reflect and think about a specific way the training or the program has been useful to any of the work tasks that you've done. So again, some concrete specific examples, because one of the common questions we get from applicants are, what do IO psychologists do? Like day to day, what is the actual task? What does that work look like? So if you could think about a specific example where you can bridge some of the training in the program in any of your courses and a task that you're either did in the past or you're doing now in your role.
If I can answer that briefly, because it's funny, I just had a conversation with people in labor relations field today, and discussing some of the aspects they work on, and it connected me to how consultants act in the field. For me, one of the main things, I'll give one example. So thanks to Dr. Stagel's Teams course, which I advise everyone to take as one of their electives in their final semester, I advise it highly because for me, I was able to learn about how to create higher level architecture in technology and human teaming interactions. So what I was able to do was utilize my analytics expertise with statistics to implement a training and development dashboard for our department in HR. And in which case I was developing a teaming platform for our entire for all of our trainers to utilize, so we can help maximize the learning and development benefits of our 2,000 plus employees on Long Island. And in which case, when I created this, and after only like a short month, we were easily able to boost promotions by like 30%. Bring our like training compliance up to 98%, and really helped our team time management succeed so well that we were more than proficient in providing all the services and all the possible maximizing just all the learning development benefits for our whole region. And so we became like very prolific in such activities because I was able to develop something that saved time management, that was effective in time management, was visually appealing and visually understandable, and with communication and doing needs analysis to better plan for the future of this tool, we were able to affect change at a team level to the organizational level. So that's really what a big part of what we do is, at least in this sense, it's dealing with the small thing first and then building out to affect change in the whole organization.
That's awesome, Anthony. Thank you for sharing that.
I can jump in. So two things come to mind. One, a project I was working on today. One of the things I do for my organization is I use various assessments to help teams work together more effectively. And one of my favorite, like, no-brainers that I learned from this course was the concept of job crafting. So helping people like make small changes on the job to be more engaged, successful, happy in what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So that's one of the coaching tools that I use all the time. Another big thing that I'm responsible for at my organization is our annual engagement survey. So I run the survey with various stakeholders across the organization and learned so many tips in this course to make sure that questions weren't double-barreled, making sure that they are going to be actionable. So many things in this course. Like, my favorite thing about this course was how applicable everything was that we were learning. So yeah, could give tons of more examples, but those come to mind.
I'll
Yeah.
go next. Oh, do you want to go? Sorry.
I too can give a lot of examples. In organizational change management, it's just such a beautiful blend of gathering and analyzing data and understanding human behavior. And so I feel like I have the perfect career path for the studies that I got to do. But one of the direct applications is being able to build into the organizational change management practice in our organization very specific data measures and understanding how to collect the data and how to leverage the data then to make the informed change decisions, and then how to execute the change plans. And so really having structured data collection methods throughout. And a big part of that is in my work, it's hard to put a tangible value on the work that I do or the work that my team does. And because of data and metrics, I often have numbers that can help tell the story of the work that we do. And so I think that I'm able to show the value a lot better because I've been through this program.
Great, thank you. Anna?
Yeah, everything like Erin said pretty much resonates with me. Specifically, a lot of what I learned throughout this entire program, I apply every day, specifically selection, because that's where I am. And my class was taught by Dr. Rupp. And when I brought that up at work, that apparently she's such a big deal that they were like, what, Dr. Rupp? So in this course, you do learn about presentations, white papers, how to basically choose where you keep it simple and where you don't, especially when you're presenting to different stakeholders. In my organization, any changes that we make, we build presentations all the time, as well as make specific reports about our assessments. And these presentations are being presented and by other people. You have to make certain things pliable for other people to be able to basically know what they're talking about and understand what you have done to better the organization. And I've applied almost everything that I have learned almost daily.
That's great, thank you. I know we have a few minutes. Is there any pressing questions from the applicants before we wrap up with the speakers that you all would like to ask these along?
If I missed anything in here, there's a lot of questions flowing in.
Oh, okay, we'll go to questions then.
Anything in I didn't answer here? Angelo, Josephine. Nothing. We're good. Here we go. Up there, Jonathan.
Yeah, I was wondering what opportunities you guys had to like connect with each other in person, because I live close to it, but I was the full-time working while doing this really like I would really want to do that. So besides office hours, is there anything that you can do that has to do with like people getting together, like other group projects, stuff like that?
Absolutely. I live in Chicagoland area, so by in person, it was still virtual for me. I know some of the local residents did get together in person for real, but we did quite a few group projects. There was some groups, like some study groups that formed throughout various classes. The 16-week research project, we had a small group. I really got to know those people really well. I would say about half of my cohort members I know pretty well. And then the other half just maybe weren't as involved or had other groups. But I felt like I got to know a really good group of people.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to add to that? How well you got to know your peers?
I think I could say, Offer, you probably know more about that too, with all the different opportunities, especially everyone who sends out like all those emails about, the IO picnics, the department meetings, not department meetings, the MPS, the get-togethers, the picnics, the getting to know you things. Definitely many ways that are offered through the program itself to as an informal gathering in person. And there's also different opportunities that Mason offers for, I think even, I'm not sure if it's just for MPS, but it's, like the VPA, I think even is in person. If not, you're still dealing with people with actual real world stuff. And then there's other, things like Connect IO. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. GradCon, grad fairs, and so forth. There are other things I know of that can be you can be in person for.
Great. So I'll just add to that and sort of conclude that question. I think there are multiple times I get to see the students. I see them in May and in December for graduation. And then I get to see them at the PSYOP conference, and several of our students and alum attend the PSYOP conference, and George Mason University hosts a reception. And then we all also try to get together as a smaller group, and that's at the PSYOP conference. And then we have a fall picnic here in the Fairfax County. It's about 5 minutes away from campus at a park. And we invite all alumni and current students to that. So that's another opportunity. So those are the structured opportunities that are already embedded in the program. In addition to that, next week, I'm going to Personnel Testing Council. Metropolitan Washington has an in-person thing, and they're giving some of the Consulting Challenge awardees, their award, and they have invited a guest speaker from Michigan State. So I'll be at that, and some of our students will be there. And tomorrow night, some students and alum from the program have invited me to dinner in Arlington. And so 6 of us are getting together then. So there's a lot of opportunities to connect in person. That's something you want to do.
Go to PSYOP, room together.
Yeah.
We'll see each other after that. No, I'm just kidding. You go to PSYOP, professional conferences, people split the rooms, they stay 7-10 deep, they're on the floors, they're everywhere. You'll bond at these conferences. You'll get to meet thousands of people, and Mason's alumni network is incredible.
Yeah.
Our program's relatively new. They've been here for 40 years. So their people are all over the world doing amazing stuff at all kinds of entities. You can see that on the IO website, the Unified IO Programs website.
Yep. All right. I think I saw Megan's hand next. I'll go to Megan, Carla, and then Brent, and then Angelo. So Megan.
Hi. I have 2 questions, but they're pretty related. The first being, what kinds of jobs did you have while you were doing your coursework? And then also, how was like your education in the process of like getting your master's? How did it compare to the people that you were working with? Like, did they also have masters, PhDs, things like that?
All right.
Well, Shelby, I say you go off if you want to jump in.
No, go for it.
Okay. When I first started, I was working in a job that was related to change management, but not the career direction I wanted to go. So early on, I jumped into a new role doing consulting. It actually was a really good fit for while I was doing the program, because it was a 40-hour-a-week job. And so it made it manageable to really invest in the coursework. And then I was able to jump into a new position after that's much more intensive. It would have been hard for me to manage both right now. As for degrees in the consulting role, most people had higher education than me. So they were in master's or PhD degree holders. In my current role, I would say that of my peers, I have the most education, which I think sets me up again to be more of an expert when I come to the table with an opinion.
That's great. And Shelby?
So when I joined the program, feedback I got internally from my organization was that they felt like, I was really strong. I was already kind of in the field, but they gave me a lot of feedback that they felt like if I wanted to advance my career either internally or if I were to ever move externally, an advanced degree would be a requirement for this kind of role. And so that was kind of my impetus for getting the degree. Everyone that I was working with in this field had masters or PhDs. And then after joining the program, I felt like many people were in a similar place. Most people were working full-time, had some career experience. A lot of people were already in the field, maybe not like in their dream job, but had some exposure to what we were doing. But then there were a few people that were newer to the field, students or a career change.
Great, thank you. So we're gonna, in the interest of time, we're gonna keep some of the questions going and let 1 to 2 panelists address them. Carla, I saw your hand up next.
Yes, thank you. So I guess what's holding me up in terms of like trying to assess different options and programs, and so they're so different, right? And I think my hesitancy, at least in my current role, is I gravitate towards more the humanistic part of the organizational psychology, and don't have a lot of strengths and frankly like a passion for data analysis or research. And I know that that could help me in my role. So I'm a chief well-being officer in my role right now. This isn't really necessarily for career growth, but I think it would help me in positioning my consultants and, just from, being able to market a lot of what we do. And I think part of what I want to know, at least from one of the grads here, did any of you enter this feeling a little intimidated about the data and then coming out feeling like, wow, I could actually do that? Maybe I'm just doubting my ability to be able to lean into it. I certainly see the value. I don't have a desire to be a researcher, but I do know that could certainly help me in terms of having those competencies. So I'll pause there, and I'm just curious. That's honestly part of my sort of where I'm struggling with a decision and what program to go with.
Carla, before one of the panelists jump in, I just want to say, Dr. Stagel and I are laughing because I want to say 95% of people come in with that sort of same sentiment. Like, I don't know if I want to do quant research. Is it too heavy on that? And then they realize that so much of it is applied and it's a really good blend in the program. But I'll let one of the panelists speak to that a little bit more since they went through it. So who wants to jump in?
Well, I was laughing because I felt exactly the same. Sometimes I still feel the same. But that's exactly why I selected George Mason. I had looked at a lot of programs and I really liked that it was about application. I'm not as interested in personally doing research and gathering the data to the level required for a study, but I really appreciate understanding how to read and evaluate the research that's already been done and leverage that to make decisions. And then I also feel like I can collect and analyze data to the level that's needed in the workplace to make some informed decisions for me. But the data side wasn't my strong side. I think it's been really helpful to have an understanding of it. And then especially just knowing how to read the research, because I really like leveraging research for making decisions.
That's great. And it's important to leverage your strengths. So I'm just this week, last night, I was talking to students in my practicum course, and again, you're in research teams of 3. And so the one person who was cleaning the data, the other one said, Victoria was like, I was watching my colleague, Alexandra, literally clean the data and run it into R and so forth, because I'm more comfortable with doing it in Qualtrics and Excel. And this was new to me. And so, working in these small teams and groups allows you to sort of leverage each other's strengths and weaknesses, whereas another team member jumped in a little bit more heavy on the writing part and so forth. So just that's something to keep in mind as well.
I was just going to add, like, I was in totally the same boat, and like Erin still am, and it was not as scary as I made it seem going into the program. There's so much support in those courses. They really break it down for you, and they know that we're not all statisticians. Like, they really make it approachable and practical. So I feel you, and it's not as bad as you're envisioning in this moment.
Again, no cumulative final exams, I promise.
Thank you.
There are 2 instructors for each of those quant heavy courses. And so you can attend office hours of both. You can learn from both. You can learn from the students of both sections. There are 3 instructors for the research methods practicum. So all the heavy duty courses that are really quant heavy, quant dominant, you're going to have multiple instructors that work with you.
And that's a great thing to add. So in that research methods practicum course, we have 2 office hours. So you have an office hour with me earlier in the week since I developed the class to sort of set the expectations, go through some of the content. And then the second office hour is with the co-instructor where you're one-on-one meeting with the instructor to talk about your project. You're getting that specific project feedback. You're having challenges running your data. You're running into error messages. Guess what? You have an opportunity to break that down and work through that with your co-instructor. So again, a lot of support built in these ways. Brent, Angelo, Dylan, and Brenda. That's the order that I have on my screen. Brent, would you like to go next?
Yes, sorry. So I'm active duty Air Force, and I just had a question about the order of the classes, and should I have to have a move that comes up or travel deployment, whatever, like how flexible is staying with the program? I don't want to break it up and make it take, 4 years to complete, but I also don't know how much of stuff I can control will be able to stay on that like laid out track.
There are 2 active duty Air Force members in our current cohort 14. I'm working with both of them right now. One just paused. He started with cohort 13 and he got TDY'd in an emergency, and we allowed that and worked with him flexibly to ensure that he could pause, and he returned for this cohort after taking that brief break. And he's actually performed better than ever now that he's got to reflect and move forward. But that's every cohort. There are members, active duty military members that we're very flexible working with people. So not just our DoD members who we're very excited to work with you, but with everyone.
That's what I was going to add is that, Brent, that, I understand your unique circumstances, but we've had a number of students that have had just life happen, right? We've had students who've had babies, who've had family members with sicknesses, elder care, child care issues, traveling for work, multiple things come up, and some of them planned and others unplanned. And so we work very closely with students to sort of accommodate that. While it's not ideal to jump out of your cohort because then you won't get to work maybe on your practicum project with the people in the same room, but students jump into the next cohort and get on the Slack channel and start connecting and say, hey, I'm interested in this topic. Who else is interested in this? Can we work together on this project? They find ways. And we've had a number of students that took breaks for various reasons. And sort of what the best thing to do is to take that whole semester so that you can dive in with the next cohort. But if you only you have to take a class in the second half, we've sort of rearranged schedules and allowed students as needed to take an elective course or something like that. So we do work very closely. So in addition to both having support from Dr. Stagel and myself, you have a success coach team. And the success coach is the one that's helping you register for classes, drop you from classes. You want to run everything by that success coach team. And Dr. Stagel and I meet with the success coach team like bi-weekly. And so we're literally sitting there, all of us, 4 of us in a room, talking about student by student by student. You talk to the student, she's coming back. What's the deal with her? Like, is she feeling better? We literally sit there in a room and talk about you all and figure out what's the best next step in getting you support that you need.
A couple of your adjunct instructors are also GS-15 DoD.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
We mentioned the core tenure track faculty teaching, but we have a number of adjunct faculty who are working a variety of positions, and including, as Dr. Stable mentioned. Angelo.
Sorry, okay. I have a few questions actually. The first one's very short. In this class, do you ever have to use SPSS?
In the first data analytics course, yes, SPSS, and the second one you use R.
So how would you use SPSS as virtual? Like,
students typically buy the independent licensure that's active for 6 months. For anyone that is not able to purchase it, there is a virtual computing lab, but I'm told that it works a little slower because you have to connect to Mason's network and use it through there. So most students end up purchasing the independent licensure.
Okay.
You're going to get free access to LinkedIn Learning and all the modules there. So you can download a module, learn Python, and go right into the VCL and start practicing it.
Oh, well, in my undergrad, I used SPSS. That's how I was wondering if you guys still use it. So this might be for the graduate students, but I just kind of want to know how writing intensive and reading intensive is this class going to be, since, we all kind of, will work, and theoretically plan like how many hours per week should I plan to these classes?
Before they dive into how much you should plan for the class, the program director response is a 3-credit course has to be 120 hours, and we break that down. And so you're working about 20 hours a week in the course. So students structure their time differently. Some students are doing 2 to 3 hours a night. Some who are not able to devote that every night sort of push it a little bit more on the weekend. People have different schedules and work differently, but I'd love to hear from some of our alums how they manage some of the workload in those hours. On average, 15 to 20 hours a week.
I would say that sounds pretty on par with what it was. I was one of those people that did like 2 to 3 hours every night. It's a lot of reading and writing, and it's fast. I think the good part of this program is you get through it fast, but the way to do that is that it's intense, and there's no way to, like, the way that the program is structured is the assignments are due every week. And so you can't like save it for the end of the semester. It like very much keeps you on par, which I'm super type A. Like I kind of liked that week by week, but like I felt like it was critical to my success to stay really organized and be really on top of it throughout the program. But to answer your question, I would say like 2 to 3 hours per night was typically what I was doing.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. Same thing with what Offer said. I 100% agree with everything Offer said, like how it actually felt, like how it is like laid out. It is actually how it felt. And as someone who actually had to work, I was working like 60 hours, I think, a week at my job during the practicums course. Yeah, I actually had no problem doing it. I had no problem reading research articles and then doing my parts of my research papers while also working, 60 plus hours. So it was really no problem. I maybe had to do like an hour during the week or an hour each day at night, and then over the weekend I did all my work. But I would say the quality of the articles, the quality of the topics, and the quality of the connections between those two that you get from each week by week is very much worth it. I have to say, even though it can be like a lot of reading, like the stuff you're reading is like the top quality stuff that you like. It's worth it.
That's great. Thank you. And again, Angela, so my response, that 15, 20 hours to get accreditation, we do have to, get our syllabi approved and our courses approved. And we're like, look, this is a 3-credit graduate course, and here's the breakdown between the readings and the assignments and assessments. And it's very formulaic. And so it is done that way to make sure that every week you're hitting the learning objectives and you're meeting the overall course objectives, right? So again, you don't have 15 weeks to do it. You have 8 weeks to do it. So it's a little more condensed. But that's why you're doing one class at a time. And you'll notice that students have different schedules. I've had a student who told me, who was talking to another student, and she was like, I would take a lunch break and just tell myself I'm going to do my readings during lunch. And then after work, I was going to go post my discussion board and stuff like that. So they get very strategic and efficient with their time. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Now I have one more question. Did you ever have any, any students in your cohorts that did like assistantships?
Students in our cohort get assistantships, yes. So like sometimes the B school and other opportunities may come up, and they'll open them up to all master students. And Handshake, George Mason University Handshake, is another space where you can look at job opportunities on campus in other departments, and some of them have virtual components. I remember sending something out in our well-being and wellness center. They had a virtual assistantship for our master students where they would take care of some of your tuition if you worked for them on different projects and things like that. So those opportunities do get shared on the listserv, but also are on Handshake, especially if they're internal, and you're welcome to apply to those because they would be open to any master student here at Mason.
One of our MPS students did get awarded 2 of them assistantships in the B school.
Yep, to do research in the B school. Yep. I think Dylan, Brenda, and Justin. That's who I have next. Dylan?
So my question is kind of more of just a general, maybe not program specific question, but what would you say is like the biggest thing going into starting the program that could set you up to be successful in it? The biggest tool or skill to have before entering the program to best set yourself up to be successful in it?
Well, that was one of the last questions that I had for the panelist was, is there anything you wish you knew as an applicant or coming into the program that, again, you feel like really would have set you up for success in the program that you'd like to share?
I can share a couple of things. I think one, the biggest thing that I found of value was to have a job alongside the work, because I could immediately apply the learnings, and it really solidified the learnings for me. So I thought that was really valuable. And many of my classmates had that experience, or they went out and found internships. So try to find something that's relevant that you can plug the learnings into right away. And then the other one is just commit to doing it. Like, you get out of it what you put into it. And I've got a family and job and lots going on, but I got a lot out of it because I put a lot into it, and it was worth it because of that.
Great. So definitely having a job that not only helps with applying what you're learning immediately, but also with those discussion board prompts. It's a little hard to make up fictional hypothetical situations and scenarios to talk about. So it definitely does help. Anna, I saw you went off mute next. Do you have anything to add to that?
That was basically it. I bought planners. I used a lot of paper because I do prefer physical copies. I did take the metro downtown to work during practicum, because that's when they implemented going back into the office. I read on the train. Definitely the planner helped me just physically crossing things off. And just like Erin said, having that job alongside it. And a lot of my jobs that I had throughout this program weren't even HR based. Like, I did contact tracing, I did death benefits, investigations, and then I went into this. So but
for
I found a way
COVID.
to- Sorry?
For COVID, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that too now.
So you went from there to where you're at now in that period of time. That's
Yeah.
our program.
And that's where I was saying, like, this challenges you to look at, your work in different perspectives. Like, even though I was a contact tracer, I was able to look deeply into how the organization I was working in was designed the way it was, and looked at the pros and the cons of certain programs that they had going on. And it was, just like Erin said, even if it's not in this field, you're just use your job, and this will challenge you to challenge you to look into your job and your organization in a different view.
Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better, because I do have a job right now, but it's not in an HR field, and I had an internship, but was struggling to find one, but I came across a different job that I really like the company. So knowing that makes me feel a lot better that I'm not in human resources right away, but still can use this stuff to practice elsewhere. Thank you.
Just to make the point that our Dr. Zuccaro, our program set family director, makes all the time, is this is not just about you practicing IO as IO practitioners. You can port this to your workplace. So we have people here from SOCOM, software engineers, people that work at media and Clear Channel, and they're not IOs. They're not practicing IO. There's IO scientist practitioners, and they're porting all the lessons learned to their workplace. They have no intention of working at a consultancy or mainstream IO ever. They're just going to promote, they're going to move through the software engineer hierarchy and continue to manage large teams through their IO practices and policies. Very extensible. That's what my point was at the beginning, is that, whether you want to work in human resources or not, you're going to work with people in the workplace. And so we study biopsychosocial phenomenon in the workplace. And that's applicable anywhere.
That's applicable anywhere. And like, just to echo that, one of my favorite moments in sort of in research methods and practicum course was with someone working in healthcare. And through that process, they were like, do you know we survey doctors and nurses and patients? We make decisions based on this. And I'm realizing through this course, we have not been interpreting the data correctly. We didn't know how to develop surveys. They're double-barreled questions. They're bad items. And, someone mentioned psychometrics earlier. They realized and were able to leverage some of that skill set to make better informed decisions in healthcare. And I'm like, wow, that could impact lives. And so again, you can use it in any space. And Dylan, just to add, if you want to get sort of prepped up, I would say read as much as you can about IO psychology. You're going to get some of the depth in here, but getting some of that breadth, maybe an intro book, intro blogs, videos, resources, just to get your head wrapped around all the different areas is helpful. Any stats recursive, like LinkedIn Learning, things like that. There's so much out there. Just getting brushed up on that will be helpful. So it's like not just looking at what mean standard deviation means for the very first time, right? And then as you warm up and get into some of those more advanced data analytic courses, that'll be helpful. And so getting comfortable, we use SPSS and R. So some students have gone and looked at training programs, and R is free. So you don't have to get the licensure for that, and start playing around and start getting comfortable with the program and just running things. Those are things, if for whatever reason you may be getting itchy this winter break and are like, I want to be doing something to start prepping and getting ready, those would be some of my suggestions. All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. Brenda, can we go to you next?
Hi, thank you. Actually, yeah, you guys just sort of touched on my question and did answer some of my questions. So yeah, I work for Duke University, specifically for the Duke Cancer Institute and research. I've been with them for 23 years. The department that I work in is Cancer Control and Population Sciences, for the Cancer Patient Experience Research Program. And my job as a clinical researcher is I handle a lot of regulatory, and I do some patient facing, but I work on the front end of research with the protocol design, protocol writing, protocol design, just getting everything started, you know, with our IRB. And I do very little on I do a lot of data collection, not as much on the back end, though, with the data analysis. I do work with a lot of statisticians. So my interest with this program was to learn, you know, more about analytics, and so I can join in on conversations. You know, I know what they're talking about, but I would like to be more educated on the conversations, be able to join in. But I think my question after listening to this whole presentation, which has been wonderful and very helpful, is how can I apply this, not so much on an institutional organizational level, but you know, on a healthcare level. I work with a lot of medical students. We do have a lot of you know, third-year medical students that come through us working on research projects. One of my manager, she's PhD. She does a lot of coaching. She's brought me in on some of her with some of her coaching talks that she does. But so I'm trying to figure out how I can apply this program to my position. I'm not really looking to advance my career as much as just to be more engaged in our research and with our medical students and just with our department. I'm not looking at management, more of a leadership role. Does my question make sense?
Yeah, I might be able to jump in there. So my mentor at graduate school, Dr. Eduardo Salas, actually spends most of his research time supporting hospitals and medical endeavors now, down at Rice at what they call Medical City. You know, so, you know, for example, he studies team performance, and he was supporting a major interdisciplinary initiative called Team Steps, which is introduced to reduce error in medical communities. Other initiatives that I've been in the periphery of that I've seen him work on involve designing better medical dispensary systems so that you minimize patient error and death. In fact, human error is the 8th leading cause of death in the hospital, or at least it was a couple when I got that stat about a decade ago. So there's a tremendous amount of work to be done in that realm. Before I joined Mason, I performed a medical simulator analysis for University of Buffalo, who trained 600 residents at once in the tri-state area. These are, you know, 5th-year residents that are responsible for executing 150 medical procedures proficiently by the time they graduate, whether they're walking out the door essentially to perform these procedures in the community. I was able to use basic data screening techniques I learned in IO to determine that a published article had grossly underreported the efficacy of a particular team training medical simulator. And that's the kind of proficiency you would develop here. And I'll just close with, Dr. Ahmad and I just received an email from one of our alums, Josephine McKinley, who I mentioned transferred, was one of our alums over there at Johns Hopkins. So she graduated, took that job, and one of the emails she just wrote us a couple weeks ago were, I was so excited that I was sitting in meetings. I hate to disclose Josephine's personal email. I was so excited I was sitting in meetings, and I was listening to the conversation of somebody who was earning their PhD or something, and she was in tune with everything they were talking about analytically, and she was just very excited about that. And I think that speaks volumes of how we prepare our students.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, we do a lot of the PI initiated trials that actually involve surveying of physicians, just to, we do a lot of patient reported outcomes, but we also look at the physician side also. We do observational studies, we do a lot of retrospective studies also, but prospective, you name it.
And you're going to learn how to plan and execute those studies according to scientific best practice in this
Right.
program. With it,
Yes.
again, everything's actionable here. We understand that you can't bring a sledgehammer when you need a tack hammer. So and so we're going to teach you how to be efficient in your choices and making those resource choices, so that you can build a programmatic program that can carry forward for years and not just a one-off solution or a study.
Okay, makes sense. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Justin, I see your hand up.
Hey, yes. So my question is about participating on research projects that the doctoral level program may offer. So I don't have an interest in pursuing a PhD program, but I know on the website you said there could be opportunities if we put ourselves out there to participate on research projects. So what's the value in that for us if we're not going to be considered first or second author? Because I've heard in the publication world, nobody really takes you serious unless you are the first or second author. So, if we are MPS student and we do get an opportunity to participate, what value do you see?
So there's a couple of ways you can do it. First, I'll give you an example. When I was in the doctoral program at Mason, we had about 4 PhD students and 12 master students, MA students on ground taking courses with us and also participating in the research labs. So they were very much involved in the research labs. And again, they would have frank conversations of, yes, I'm going to help collect data. Anyone can do that, but I know that's not going to involve authorship, or I want more out of this. Similarly, the MPS students have that opportunity to, again, connect with the faculty and have those conversations. But honestly, at this level, there's so much about just being mentored by the faculty here, having an opportunity to sit in their labs. I mean, Kevin and I still like to go and listen to the faculty. I go to orientation every year just to be able to hear what the new trending research the faculty are doing, just to have these thought leaders in the field talk about their expertise, being in the room with them. I just go to listen to that. And so you'll learn that there's a lot of value. And if you add that to your personal statement that you sat in one of their labs, and as Shelby was alluding to, like Deborah Rupp, these are big name people in the field, having interactions with them, attending their classes, attending their lab meetings, getting some experience in their labs, that'll all cultivate that, building that mental model. And then that can also result in greater opportunities of, again, if you're doing more and contributing more in these labs, you can have those conversations about, can I get a, conference submission out of this, or even if more, with even additional opportunities of publication out of it. But any of our students, there have been a couple of students who've gone on to doctoral studies elsewhere, but they just got involved in just learning from the people here at Mason, and that in itself, and getting letters of recommendation from people here at Mason, so that was a worthwhile endeavor in my eyes. But Kevin, do you have anything else to add to that?
I'll just say, after 30 years of work experience here, or nearing 30 years, I get smarter being in the vicinity of Mason's top IOs. They're world-class people, and they are passionate about what they do. Dr. Zakaro he's approaching 5 decades. So imagine investing half a century of your life in an endeavor. And some of the other IOs from here, Dr. Fleischman, Dr. Klomoski, Dr. Rupp, these people, Dr. Dalal and Kaplan and others, they're phenomenal. And so even if you're not publishing, you want to be in those lab meetings, or you want to be at SIOP, even if you're not presenting. I didn't present this year, and I learned a lot at SIOP. And I made terrific connections, built my community of practice, learned a tremendous. I got a whole I'm still waiting to be decoded. A whole diary from PsyOp, waiting to be research ideas, and that's just awesome. So,
And
All
again,
right, thanks.
it's just I know we keep repeating this over and over, but I would encourage you all to see for yourselves. Go on Google Scholar and type in any of these faculty names and see how many hits you get, how many times not only do they publish, but were they cited. You can't pick up a leadership book without someone knowing Steve Zakar. You can't pick up, you know, some of these selection things without Deborah mentioned. You can't pick up a book about decision or anything, any articles about decision making without Rashad being mentioned. So there's certain areas you're going to realize that it's pretty neat to see their names in there and be like, huh, they teach at Mason. Wow, they're my instructor, or they developed the course. I get to see their videos and see what articles they picked for the class and all of that. And then when you get to PsyOp, I'll never forget, I'll share this. My first year as a PhD student, I actually went to Mason as an undergrad. So I was like, okay, it's cool that I got into Mason's IO program, but you know, it's my alma mater, it's my undergrad. I'm sure they tell me it's a top graduate program, but okay. But it really wasn't until I went to the PsyOp conference and I was at the airport and wearing a Mason shirt, and everyone's like, oh, so tell me about how Steve's doing over there, Rich and everything. And I'm like, okay. And then I go to the elevator, same thing's happening. They see my badge and they're asking me about their buddies and friends at Mason and then literally in the elevator conversation, tell me what Jose Cortina's up to nowadays. What research is he doing? And then the next thing I know, I'm spitting back some of the things I'm learning in lab. And then they're like quizzing me on it. And I'm like, this is interesting, but didn't really realize what a big deal Mason IO faculty were until I got to the PsyOp conference, and that was really neat experience to see how they were esteemed thought leaders in their areas and not just in our textbooks, but these you know, in the fields. And so that's sort of, you know, anecdote. I'll leave you with that. I recognize we're at 8:30. Thank you all so much for your time. And tonight was an example of, yes, we had this scheduled for an hour, but Dr. Stagel and I, we're here for you. We're here for you at all hours. There are many times that he and I extend our office hours if students want to stick around and ask questions, have one-on-one conversations. This is what our evenings look like, where our days look like. We schedule that time. We make that time for you all because we care about you, not only in the program, but as you grow and advance your career. And, you know, we'll continue to conversate with you. And that's Kevin, tomorrow night, Terry Watkins, Teresa, Melissa Suave, Tina, a bunch of them wanted me to come out to dinner. That's what we're doing tomorrow night, catching up about their workplace experience, where they're at and what they want to do. And that's what, yeah, that's what
that's the Center of Creator Leadership, Deloitte. These are high-end companies that are all meeting, representing companies. Yep. And they are actively trying to come to campus to hang out and learn more and engage with us. They send their recruiters here. So that's
yeah,
awesome.
Tomorrow night we're connecting, hearing about their career progression. Some of them not happy with the teams they're working on, might want to switch, do other things, but networking, connecting, and continuing to interact with us, even though they graduated a year ago. So that's just a little feel of what we do here at Mason. And I hope you guys got a touch of that this evening. Again, thank you all so much for joining. And thank you so much to our panelists for coming back and continuously being of service to the program. We really appreciate you all being ambassadors of the program. And we look forward to the next steps. So Stephanie, with that, I'll turn it over to you so you can let folks know how to get in touch and sort of the next steps they have in the application process.
Yes, definitely. So the big thing to note is that we are still accepting applications for the spring term that starts on January 8th. And we have an admissions file deadline of December 4th, so that gives you plenty of time to apply to the program. We are going to send out follow-up information to everyone who attended, so we can send you out the link to apply. Also, we'll send you the admissions checklist, and we as admissions representatives work with you throughout the application process. So I've been trying to answer some of the direct messages, but if you have specific questions about maybe the GPA wasn't quite a 3.0, or you haven't taken statistics yet, we may have some resources that we can send to you to let you know how to build a strong file. Also, give us a call in admissions at 703-348-5006. You can also email masonol@gmu.edu. And we will hope to hear from you. And any questions, I'm still going to answer a few in the chat here, but if you have any questions, please give us a call tomorrow. We're here to help. And thank you again to Dr. Ahmad and Dr. Stagel for joining us. I mean, you all had some really great specific questions, maybe more so than any other open house I've seen. So we appreciate everyone's time and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all so much. And again, I echo that sentiment. Some great questions and enthusiasm. So we will look forward to seeing your names in the application files. So we appreciate you all joining this evening. Have a wonderful night.